We are back again for our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday Bhagavatam classes, and I believe Tuesdays have the moniker Transcendental Tuesdays. So welcome to Transcendental Tuesdays. We'll begin by offering our pranams to the disciplical session, Prabhupada and his guru, and all the way back to the source. Om Aganati Miranda Syagana Gana Salakya Chaksorun Meritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyatara Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitam Scha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pachari Nirvishes Sunyori Paskata De Sadharine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama 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 Hari Hari Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayodhyaraya Nishta Prayasho Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Tamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigama Kapaturu Garitam Padam Sukha Makara Mitadra Visamvitam Pibata Bhagatam Ashamarya Mahora Hora Sikabhuva Vivagaha. Welcome to Transcendental Tuesday. Sundari Priya, Govinda, Thomas, and I think Joe's on board. Terry, I believe I saw Terry go across the screen there as well. Anjali, of course, can't forget Anjali, so astute. I think Anjali gave us the name Transcendental Tuesday as well as Motivational Monday, and the front runner for Wednesday is Wisdom Wednesday. We're still open for selections, but right now we're Motivational Monday, Transcendental Tuesday, and Wisdom Wednesday. Good morning, Rupa Manjari from Sacramento, I believe, yes. We're moving to Radhesham from Tooele, Utah, and Pavana, Vaibhavi from just next door. Vaibhavi and I occupy what we call the penthouse in the basement. We occupy the lower floor of our ashram here in Spanish Fork, Utah. Jimmy, Hare Krishna from Minnesota. We're moving to another verse today, which is going to be the 20th verse in the second chapter, first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a beauty, as all of them are. Evam Prashana, can you just feel it? Prashana means deep peace, deep satisfaction. Evam Prashana Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogadaha Bhagavad Tattva Vigyanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Prabhupada writes in the purport, in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 3rd verse, it is said, out of many thousands of ordinary men, one fortunate man endeavors for perfection in life. Mostly men are conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus they are engaged always in lust, desire, hankerings, ignorance, and sleep. Out of many such man-like animals, there is actually a man who knows the responsibility of human life and thus tries to make life perfect by following the prescribed duties. And out of many thousands of such persons who have thus attained success in human life, one may know scientifically about the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 1855, it is also said that scientific knowledge of Sri Krishna is understood only by the process of devotional service, of bhakti yoga. So a man-animal, as Prabhupada uses the term here, is not happy, he's not peaceful, he's not satisfied, he's full of lust and greed. The lust and greed are the result, they're born out of a person's being in the modes of ignorance and in the modes of passion. The modes of ignorance and the modes of passion, tamagun and rajagun, give rise to unlimited lust and greediness. And it's like a fire that you're trying to pour gasoline on. Gasoline is a liquid, and generally liquids will extinguish a fire. But the methodology of the materialists is they try to extinguish the fire of their lust and greed born from passion and ignorance by pouring, by indulging the senses, which is akin to pouring gasoline on the fire. they're going to get the opposite result from what they expect. They hope for and they expect that by pouring liquid on the fire will be extinguished. So they try to indulge the senses more and more and more and more, pursue the avenues of lust and greed, with the expectation that at some point the senses will relinquish their hold and call enough and run up the white flag and cease and desist. But contrary to the expectation, just the opposite happens. Lust and desire being fed by sensualism, hedonism, just blaze up higher and higher and higher and higher. And even in old age, one does not get respite from lust and greed. Prabhupada says, lust and greed, a lifetime spent pursuing lust and greed, at the end, it's neither pensionable nor terminal. It just gets worse and worse. And if one is still inflamed by lusty desires at the time of death, then one comes back in the subhuman species of life. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's an allegory. The story of Puranjana is an allegorical story having to do with sense gratification and the process of pacification of the senses. It's found in the 4th canto, and this is a verse from the 25th chapter, 11th verse here. And it has to do with Puranjana. He's been out hunting, and while he's been hunting, he's been perspiring, he's been foaming at the mouth, he's been exerting himself mightily, trying to inflict pain and suffering on innocent animals. He's in a state of heightened agitation, disturbed, tired, frustrated, angry, violent. But it says in this allegorical story that when he comes home, and I'll read the verse here, Tata Shut Trit Parish Ranto Nivrita Graham, Graham means home, Eyivam Krita Shnano Chitahara Shambhivivesha Gata Klamaha. After this, the king, being very much fatigued, hungry, and thirsty, returned to his royal palace. After returning, he took a bath and had an appropriate dinner. Then he took rest and thus became freed from all restlessness. See what happens. All your agitation, all your frustration, all your heightened appetites. As soon as you come home, you don't have to deal with each different issue separately. Coming home, that one act of coming home, is sufficient to pacify you on all the various fronts. It says he returned to the royal palace, took a bath that solved the cleanliness problem, he had dinner, it solved the hunger problem, took rest, it solved the tiredness problem, and thus he became free from everything that had beset him and assailed him and harassed him while he was out in the forest, so to speak. So the forest represents the material world. It represents the pursuit of the senses and sense gratification, the hard struggle for existence, the competitiveness amongst other living beings who have the same desires to indulge in sense gratification. It represents the modes of passion, the modes of ignorance. It represents lust and greed. But coming home is akin to the mode of goodness, getting relief from all these different types of harassments. Puranjana's returning home is indicative of man's returning to his original consciousness, which is known as Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says in that famous record album, Transcendence, where he's quoting his spiritual master, Krishna consciousness is the original consciousness of the living entity. And how many times do we say, back to home, back to Godhead, back to home, back to Godhead? Krishna consciousness is the only truly remedial process to pacify the soul who has been burning in the fires of lust and greed, embroiled within the modes of passion and ignorance, entangled in the process of killing animals and eating their flesh. The only remedial consciousness is Krishna consciousness. One has to come back home, come out of exile from the material world and all of its anomalies, back to that world which is Yatra Nasha Gadurira Sahasuni Magadana, Mitrani Vajitva Shasha Druta Ruta Shanadikam. It's explained in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that transcendental world of Vrindavan is a world where fierce animals and human beings put aside their enmity and live in peace and pacification. I recollect one poem along these lines about getting rest in the Lord, coming home to the Lord. Sometimes I quote this as part of my Hanuman rap songs. It's not spoken per se by Hanuman, but one could well imagine Hanuman saying these words to Ram. And this is my adaptation of this Christian poem. I forget who wrote it. Hanuman might well have said to Ram, "Long did I toil and knew no earthly rest. Far did I roam and found no certain home. Until at last I sought them in Ram's sheltering breast, who opens his arms and bids the weary come. With Ram I found a home, a rest divine, and I since them am Ram's, and he is mine. The good I have is from Ram's store supplied. The ill is only what Ram deems the best. With Ram as friend I'm rich with naught beside, and without Ram I'm poor, though of all possessed. Changes may come, I take or I resign, content while I am Ram's, and Ram is mine. Changes may come, but in Ram no change is seen. Ram is like a glorious sun who wanes not nor declines. Above the storms and clouds, Ram walks serene, and on his devotees inward darkness shines. While here, alas, I know but half Ram's love, but half discern him, and but half adore him. But when I meet Ram in the realms above, I hope to love him fully, praise him more, and show and tell amidst the kirtans divine how fully I am Ram's, and Ram is mine." You get the idea of coming home, getting relief, getting pacification through the pacifying remedial process of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was president of the Berkeley, California temple from 1975 to 78. And our temple was just off of famous Telegraph Avenue that runs right out of UC Berkeley. And many dispossessed hippies lived in that area. They had come from wealthy homes, wealthy families, Greenwich, Connecticut, Short Hills, New Jersey, Beverly Hills, and yet they had renounced their heritage, renounced their birthright to come to live in the Berkeley area, just in and around Telegraph Avenue, take drugs, and basically subsist out of garbage cans. And it was sad to see these boys who had been born, boys and girls who had been born with every opportunity, with silver spoons in their mouths, so to speak, having been degraded to that point that they had forgotten from whence they came, were living no better than animals. Now, what's the solution to their problem of taking drugs and living out of garbage cans? Now, they could go to a local treatment center. They could check in to an inpatient. They could take methadone. They could go, instead of living out of garbage cans, they could go to St. Vincent Paul's and Salvation Army. But my question is, aren't those just fragmental solutions? Isn't it simply putting a Band-Aid, dealing with symptoms rather than the cause? What is the cause? They're suffering in all sorts of ways, from disease, lack of hygiene, from addictions. Now, rather than dealing piecemeal and locally in the Berkeley area where there's so much negative reinforcement, what is the one thing doing which all of their problems are solved at one fell swoop? Just going to a payphone. They had payphones in those days. And not even if you don't have a quarter, it's okay. In those days, you could pick up the payphone, you get the operator and say, "Call home collect." And no sooner does your dad or mom pick up the phone in Beverly Hills or Short Hills or Greenwich and hear your voice, the operator says, "Will you accept the calls?" Yes, of course. You come and you say a few simple words, Mom, Dad, I want to come home. Your addiction problem is solved, your nutrition problem is solved, your hygienic problem is solved, your education problem is solved, everything. They'll send you a ticket. Within 24 hours, you'll be back sleeping in comfortable beds with a nice, ideal situation from which you can launch, do anything in your life. Anything's possible. You've been reestablished. You've been reconstituted. You've been reclaimed by your loving parents. The Krishna consciousness like that. You know, how many times do we say back home, back to Godhead? We don't need to be mucking about in this material world of birth, death, disease, and old age. It's totally unnecessary. And therefore, Prabhupada used to say, those who are intelligent, sumeda saha, they try to solve all their problems with one fell swoop in Krishna consciousness. And similarly, Puranjana experienced so many difficulties, so many stresses and anxieties while he's out trying to kill some animal on the hunt in the forest. Hunger, thirst. He's addicted to the letting of blood. He's addicted to violence. He's apart. He's separated from his wife, his children, and from all the amenities that exist back in the palace. However, as soon as he enters into the palace gates, he takes a bath, which is analogous as if he had been cleansed of all these lusts, all these greedy desires, all this perverted appetite for tasting the bloody flesh of slaughtered animals. He takes a bath when he comes home. We all do that. We take a bath, we take a shower. So this is analogous to coming home in Krishna consciousness and cleaning yourself of all sinful activity. Someone may say, well, Krishna could never be interested in me. I've taken myself out of the game. I've broken too many of his rules. I've been living a sinful life for who knows how many lifetimes. No. There's no amount of sinful activities that you've committed that can't be counteracted by your taking a bath once in the chanting of the holy names and taking of purified food offered to the Lord. Kechit kevala bhaktya. It is said in the 9th canto, Kechit kevala bhaktya. Vasudeva parayanaha. Parayana means Krishna opens his arms and bids the weary come into his sheltering embrace. Kechit kevala. Vasudeva parayana. Agam dunarti kanstanyam. Doesn't matter how many sins that you've committed. Dunati, the power of the Lord is such that you become instantly dunati. Kechit kevala bhakti vasudeva parayana. Agam dunarti. Niharam eva bhaskara. What chance does the fog have against the early morning sun, I ask you? What chance does it have? We lived in Los Angeles for 10 years, and often it was foggy in the morning there in West LA, Culver City, because of the proximity to the ocean. So mornings were inevitably foggy. But Los Angeles, Southern California, by 10 o'clock, that sun is powerful. And it rises pretty much every day, exactly the same, 360 days a year. So it doesn't matter how misty or foggy or kind of clinging, chilly it is, 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, you have perfect consciousness, perfect confidence that by 9:30, all that fog is going to be totally gone, and you're going to be feeling the warming effects of the Southern California sun. And then another word that's mentioned in this verse about Puranjana is uchitahara. Not only does he take bath when he comes back to the palace, but he takes appropriate foodstuffs. That means he gets his strength back. Now, foodstuffs which give spiritual strength, foodstuffs which pacify one, quell the passions, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as foodstuffs in the mode of goodness. Foodstuffs which inflame and agitate the passions are described as in the mode of passion and ignorance. So sattvic, or foodstuffs conducive to peace and equanimity, are described in the 8th verse of the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Sattvita ahara. Ayur, sattva, bala rogyam, shuka priti vivardhanam, rasha snigda shtira, that's for you, Paki, hridaya, ahara shattvika priya. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness, increase ayu, increase the duration of life. Meat, alcohol, all these things cut short the duration of life. And meat and alcohol go together. I remember, again, when I was president in the Berkeley Temple, Morarji Desai, who was the Prime Minister of India at that time and a staunch vegetarian, he was touring America, and a big conference, press conference, was arranged for him in an elegant hotel there in San Francisco called the St. Francis. So there were a huge ballroom full of hundreds and hundreds of press corps, and he had insisted that there be no meat served at that luncheon. So it was a totally vegetarian luncheon. We were invited. We were able to go up and give him a flower garland, which had been offered to the deities there in the Berkeley Temple. And he answered political questions from the reporters, but inevitably they asked him, why did you insist on having a vegetarian lunch? And he said that vegetarianism, a meat-free diet, is conducive to peace, equanimity, cool-headedness. He said as soon as you eat meat, then meat is very hard to digest, and anatomically, we're herbivores. If you compare the intestines, the teeth, the digestive system, the stomach acids between us and carnivores, you'll find that we have much more in common with herbivores than we do in carnivores. Eating meat is an unnatural ingestion for the system. So Morarji Desai explained that when you eat meat, it pretty much follows that then you have to take liquor. And when you take liquor, you lose all sense of sobriety, you lose all sense of decorum, you lose all sense of discretion. When you take liquor, you'll tend to do things that you would never imagine doing were you in a sober state of mind. So foods in the mode of goodness are described that they increase the duration of life. They don't pollute like foods in the mode of passion and ignorance. Rather, they purify one's existence, and they give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, not the juice that comes from the blood of a killed animal. Fatty, again, fatty comes from milk products. And even in the plant kingdom, there are avocados, which have really, really good fats for you. Here, I want to share something with you. I had a little bit elevated cholesterol level for the last couple of years. Whenever I'd go for a checkup with the doctors, the cholesterol was, LDL, the unwanted cholesterol, was a little higher than what was ideal. And took red yeast rice and took the, the omegas, not the fish oil, but the flaxseed oil. Exercise, I walk on a treadmill 10, 12 miles a day. But still, it wasn't going down. I was stubborn. So this last time I went to the doctor's last week, and he opened his eyes. He got the test results. He said, your LDL has dropped from 154 to 119. And I'm thinking, what did I do differently from the last time? Because I have always taken the flaxseed oil. I've always taken the red yeast rice. I've always exercised. I'm vegetarian. As far as that goes, I don't eat much dairy. Prabhupada said for an adult, 12 ounces of dairy a day is sufficient. Now, the only thing that I did differently during the last 6 months is started eating avocado toast every morning. Take half an avocado, put it on toast with some sea salt. So this is a fatty food, but it's not animal fat. This type of fatty food could be said to increase and to purify your existence. So juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. It says that now that's sattvic food. That's food in the mode of goodness, which pacifies and calms one. Now, when you take sattvic food, and according to the prescription of the Lord in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 9:27, Patram pusham palam tiyam yome bhakti padati, tarishnama pariyatam vishnama pariyatatmanam. Krishna says, offer me in love and devotion flower, fruit, leaf, water, dairy in moderation, and grains or legumes. Krishna does not ask for meat or fish, because all living beings are his parts and parcels. He has equal love for the soul that's in the body of the cow, the soul that's in the body of the chicken, the soul that's in the body of lamb, as he does for you. And the fact that you're more intelligent, that you have human form with higher intelligence and more dexterity, You've got hands and fingers. You can do things that animals with paws can't do. Where in all of that do you get the sanction to slaughter and kill and eat the flesh of animals? What about your higher intelligence gives you the right to then terrorize the whole animal kingdom? In fact, I would say that if you do that, you don't have higher intelligence. You're not really a human being. You've got a human body. You look like a human, but you haven't got human higher intelligence. Because higher intelligence would indicate to you that animals are spiritual beings just like you are. In fact, the word animal from animus, Latin, means spirit. If you rationalize your meat eating by saying animals don't have a spirit, you're contradicting yourself, because animals mean spirit. You're saying spiritual beings don't have a spirit, which is nonsense, and you're nonsense, because God gave you so much potential in the human form of life, so you should begin to use that. Instead of rationalizing that my higher intelligence allows me to terrorize the animal kingdom, you should actually use your higher intelligence to understand that there's very little difference between you and the animals. You eat, they eat. You sleep, they sleep. You mate, they mate. You defend, they mate. You like exercise, they like exercise. You like sunshine, they like sunshine. You like family reunions, to be with your relatives. They also like not to be separated from their children, from their aunts and their uncles and their cousins. As far as liking sunshine, now it's just beginning to be nice in Utah. We've had a mild winter for that matter, but the sun is starting to have that wonderful, warm, you can just feel the vitamin D coming into your body. So we have one animal, his name is Tangerine 2. He celebrates this time of year by lying flat on his back with all four legs splayed out to the four directions, getting the rays, soaking up the rays on his chest and his belly. Once I learn how to do screen share, I'll share a picture so you know I'm not just blowing hot air. We actually have a llama who sunbathes at this time of year. My point is, what's the difference between you and the animal? All the same propensities are there. There's no peg on which you can hang your habit for slaughtering the animals. If you're hanging on the pet of higher intelligence, I'm telling you, you're not using it. One time, Prabhupada talked with the head man in the Catholic Church there in France. His name was Cardinal Danilou. And Cardinal Danilou was using that same argument to justify animal slaughter. He said, well, we have a sense of the metaphysical, and the animals don't. And he used that as a peg to hang his meat-eating habit on. Prabhupada cut him down. Said, physical means the physical, the body made of earth, air, fire, water. So I have a body made of earth, air, fire, water. The cow has a body made of earth, air, fire, and water. In that sense, there's no difference between us. But then I have a metaphysical sense, which the animals does not. That means that I can understand that within that cow's body, there's an eternal spirit, soul, part and parcel of God. And that living entity is my brother or my sister. And I need to take care of them and not terrorize them and eat their flesh. Narada Muni, the great sage, who's known for being peaceful and calm and wise in all circumstance. He's an emblem that we could follow very profitably. He said to Maharaj Yudhishthira, another great personality whose senses were fully under control. In one sense, you might say that Narada is preaching to the choir here. He said, Mrigashtakara Markaku, this is in the 7th chapter, 7th canto of the book, Mrigashtakara Markaku Saraship Kakamaksara Atmaram Putravad Peshed Terishamadaram Kiyat. Human beings should take special care of ants, chickens, lambs, deer, cows, all these subhuman entities. Atmaram Putravad, they're like your sons and daughters, or they're God's sons and daughters, they're our brothers and sisters. So the diet in the mode of goodness excludes cruelty foods. That's it. Krishna does not condone or sanction. You can sit down at your Thanksgiving dinner, at your slaughtered turkey, and you can offer grace to God, but God is not happy. You can say grace 100 times. You can say grace for an hour. God is not happy. I remember a cartoon, Thanksgiving cartoon. The family sitting around there, and there's a little boy in his high chair. So apparently they've asked him to say grace. And this little child reveals a higher consciousness than his parents and his grandparents, all of whom are sitting around the table. Rather than having their heads bowed and their hands folded, they're like upright, staring at this little boy with their eyes wide open, their mouths, and they're in total shock. And the little boy, with his eyes closed and his hands folded, is basically saying grace to the effect that, "Dear Lord, we're sitting here in front of this turkey. He's a living, sentient being. He's created in the image of God according to his karma. He's gotten a less than human body and a turkey, but nevertheless, he eats just like we do. He sleeps just like we do. He mates just like we do. He defends just like we do. He enjoys the company of his offspring. He enjoys giving thanks amongst his relatives. He enjoys free-range exercise. He enjoys food, wholesome food. He enjoys sunlight. But anyway, he's dead, and let's eat him." So that's the prayer that the younger child of obviously higher consciousness gave, to the great consternation and astonishment of the elders gathered around the Thanksgiving table. So if one takes foods in the mode of goodness and according to the prescription of the Lord, offers them to the Lord, then whatever residual karma might be in there, because after all, even some bean sprouts or baby carrots, they're also sentient beings who have been killed in the formative years, you might say. And so there's a little tiny scintilla, a whiff of karmic reaction, a whiff of accountability, even in sattvic foods. But the last step, beyond being a vegetarian, is to become a prashadarian. Take those foods in the mode of goodness and offer them to the Lord. And it's just a simple process. It shouldn't be off-putting or complicated. There are some Sanskrit prayers that we say, and we ring a bell if we have that facility. But if not, you can simply put a picture of the Lord or your guru on a countertop in a clean kitchen where there's no meat cooked, and take portions of what you cooked and put them on a little plate, and then just say, "Lord, thank you. You created the sun, you created the rainfall, you created the earth with all of its nutrients. We can't even create a seed in our laboratories with all of our bragging and braggadocio and all of our talk about advancement of civilization. We can't create one grain of rice. We can't create one seed artificially. So Lord, thank you that you created this. You provided the means by which these elements, these plant forms sprout, germinate, and you allow us to harvest them and offer them to you, after which we take the remnants of that sacrifice. And not only do we be physically strong, but in taking only food, which is only vegetarian, sattvic food, which is offered to you first, we become free of all sinful reactions. This is the way to eat in such a way that you come back home. You come back home from the hunt, from the dog-eat-dog world. You come back to Krishna, to the temple, or to your home, which you've made a temple, and with great relief and in peacefulness, calmness, and being spiritually surcharged, you prepare the food. If you're fortunate, you would have grown your own food on your own property. Prepare the food with God's satisfaction in mind. You don't smell it, you don't taste it while you're cooking it. Well, you might not be able to avoid smelling it, but you can't avoid tasting it. And before we enjoy, we offer portions of all those cooked foodstuffs to the Supreme Bhoktaram Yagatapasham Sarvalokameshwaram, the Supreme Enjoyer, the Supreme Proprietor, the Supreme Creator, who incidentally is our best well-wishing friend. Why, in fact, does he ask us to offer food to him in the first place? Do you think that he's hungry? Do you think that he needs the snack that you're going to provide him? He doesn't need it at all. He's Atmaramas, completely and always self-satisfied. Why does he even bother to ask us to offer him stuff? Doesn't need his ego to be stroked. He's always self-satisfied and self-sufficient. He's extending mercy to us. He's giving us a channel, a means whereby to re-engage our senses in his service. He's opening his sheltering arms and inviting us in. If we'll just do our part, and before gobbling up the food, offer to him, recognizes his sovereignty, his love, and that without him we couldn't survive even moments in this world. Nitya nityanam chaitana chait eko yobaravati. Come on, just use your God-given intelligence, please. It only takes a moment. But what happens is you invite him in. You see, by doing your little mite, you're opening up your heart for Krishna to come in and to pave the way for you to go back home, back to God. And it may be some time before we transfer ourselves spiritually to the spiritual world, but back home, back to God, it is also a state of mind. It's a state of rest. It's a state of peace. It's a state of beatitude. Prabhupada continues here in the purport. The very same thing is confirmed herein in the above words. No ordinary man, or even one who has attained success in human life, can know scientifically or perfectly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Perfection of human life is attained when one can understand that he is not the product of matter, but is in fact spirit. And as soon as one understands that he has nothing to do with matter, he at once ceases his material hankerings and becomes enlivened as a spiritual being. This attainment of success is possible when one is above the modes of passion and ignorance, or in other words, when one is actually a Brahman by qualification. A Brahman is the symbol of Sattva Gun, the mode of goodness. This from the Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charanamrita, first chapter, 206 verse, when Rupa and Sanatan presented themselves as candidates for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. This is the prayer they tendered towards the Supreme Lord in his devotional incarnation. Bhavantam evanucharam nirantara. Prashanta, again that word pacified, peace, calm, respite from the world of birth, death, disease, and old age, hunger, thirst, competitiveness, envy, jealousy, lust, greed. Prashanta, prashanta, like you've been tossed in the waves. You've been adrift on the ocean for many, many days and weeks. You're on the verge of exhaustion, the verge of death, and all of a sudden you reach landfall. You crawl up on terra firma. There's coconuts, there's palm trees, there's shade, there's rest. So prashanta means come back home, back to Godhead. Nishesha manoratanantara. Kadadam aikantika nitya kinkaram praharsha yashamami sanata jivitam. The two brothers who had formerly been engaged in the service of the Muslim rulers and who were considered fallen, dispossessed, disenfranchised from Hindu culture, they tendered these prayers to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall I engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master? You see, a lot of our anxiety and a lot of our unrest and stress comes from separating ourselves from our eternal master, our well-wishing friend and loving father. Like those kids in Berkeley, all they had to do was reconnect with their parents and all their problems were solved. It was their disconnection that was the root cause of all of their anxieties. Similarly, Krishna Baliya say Jiva Bahir Anadir Mukta. Soon as you forget God, your troubles begin. And conversely, as soon as you begin to remember God, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, your troubles come to an end. A stray dog, as long as he's stray, as long as he's independent, he has so many troubles. Hunger, starvation, eczema. But if he finds a good master, then all of his problems are solved. He doesn't have to solve each and every one of his many problems separately, independently. He just has to try to find a good master, someone who will take him in, and then all of his problems are solved. A dog that has a good master is well-fed, fleshy, his coat is glossy, his tail is wagging, and his bark is robust. Woof, woof. He hasn't got a problem. A child can't fend for itself. Child can't feed itself. A child has no earning capacity. A child has no particular mobility. There's no safety guarantees. A child is at great risk out there in the world of stronger, more physically intimidated and mature adults. All a child really needs is a good set of parents. If a child has a good set of parents, then all their problems are solved. So in this connection, Prabhupada tells the story of a man whose burning desire was to serve the greatest person. As Prabhupada tells it, the man was born into a small village where he became initially attracted to serving the village chief. He was very happy in that capacity, and he served the chief so many ways. But one day, the district governor came to the village, and the servant came to understand that his local chief was not the be-all and end-all, but he was also a servant of the governor. So then he asked to be transferred to the service of the greater master. The governor accepted him into his service, and the man was again satisfied and served his new master for quite some time. But then he saw that the governor was paying taxes and offering obeisances to the king. So then the man who wanted to serve the greatest managed to transfer himself to the king's direct service. Now he was satisfied and he served the king. The king, in his turn, treated him as his favorite servant. But one day, the king went off alone into the woods to worship and serve a holy man in the woods. The king's servant later approached that guru and addressed him, "You must be the greatest person of all, because even the king serves you. Will you let me be your servant?" The ascetic replied that he himself was the lowly servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The perpetual servant then asked where he could find Krishna, and the guru directed him to the nearest Krishna temple. With an ardent desire to serve the greatest, he went to the temple and received a direct sign from the deity that he was indeed accepted as his servant. Finally, the aspirant servant of the greatest reached his goal, a position as a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just yesterday, they had the great Rath Yatra procession in Puri with social distancing, perhaps for the first time in its 3,000-year-old history. But and also on the weekend was the disappearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So those two events intersecting remind me of, I believe it was the 7th of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's 14 children was named Bimala Prasad, later known as Bhaktisiddhanta. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the chief magistrate in Puri, and his house was right fronting on the grand processional route which the cart passed every year. So in this particular year, when his 7th son was just a baby in swaddling clothes, you might say, the Rath Yatra cart stopped in front of Bhaktivinoda's house, and all the pullers and all the elephants and all the horses could not get it to budge. So Bhaktivinoda suggested to his wife, Bhagavati, that she take the child out to get blessings. Sorry, our cat has just come into the room with me. Her name is Madhurya. Madhurya, can you go out, please? Anyway, I'll try to continue the story. Everybody wants to get into the act, right? So, as Bhagavati offered the child before the feet of Lord Jagannath, there was a sign from the deity that this was a specially anointed soul who would do great service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, I'm just gonna, cat's going out, so I'm just gonna take the opportunity to close the door here. There we go, now it's just you and me. So that was the sign that the deity gave. The garland of the deity fell down from the deity around this young baby in swaddling clothes. So similarly, we might imagine that this man who wanted to serve the greatest might have gotten some similar sort of indication from the Krishna deity in that temple. And indeed, he'd come to the summit, to the summum bonum, to the highest perfectional stage of the human form of life. Savai, what is it? Savai pum sam parodamo. The highest occupational duty for the living being is service. We can't avoid service. Every one of us is a servant. If the president doesn't serve the people nicely, the prime minister doesn't serve the people nicely, the king doesn't serve the people nicely, they're going to drag him down. He retains his exalted position only so long as he serves nicely. Nobody can avoid service. It's our constitutional position. But ultimate service, service which there's nothing higher than that, service which pacifies us, service which gives us the shelter and the protection of the unlimited, omnipotent, Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is our best well-wishing friend. That is Savai Pum Sampar. That is the highest occupational duty of the living being. Yato Bhakti Rahaichagi. And that service should be unconditional. We don't need to serve the Lord in order to put our conditions or to get something from him. We simply serve the Lord because that's how we're made. That's our constitutional position. And he takes great pleasure in providing for us, protecting us, enlightening us, and pacifying us in the course of our doing our service. So it should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. And only that's Yayatma Shupashiditi will satisfy the soul. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabhabrita. There's one Supreme Lord, and all others, even Shiva, Brahma, Ganesh, Lakshmi, they are all his service. Kubera, Indra, Ara, they are all in the category of Ara Sabhabrita. So our conclusion here, we've been going on now for our standard 45 minutes. We'll wind it up. Our conclusion is that our home, our rest, is within the sheltering breast and at the lotus feet of the Lord. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sadabasanti Surya. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda. To be always engaged in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the modes of passion and all material contamination. When we act as servants of the Supreme, then and only then are we peaceful. Then and only then do we become disentangled in all the karmic results for our actions since time immemorial. And only then do we come to rest, back home, back to Godhead. Yes, Manini, she's remembering those Berkeley days and enjoying the morning classes, blasts from the past. Thank you for being with us, Manini, always. Prashant had a wonderful Rath Yatra at his own home yesterday with his beautiful kids. Bill, I'm going to send you a buff, okay? I'm going to send you one of those scarves that I had around my neck as a gift. Charan, thanks for dropping in. Hare Krishna. Kusham, great faithful listener. Anjali, yes, avocado toast with sea salt. I'm going to have some right after this. Nitin, Krishnan, thanks for dropping in. Thomas, great. Yes, he's given me the link to that poem. It was written apparently by Francis Lyle, Henry Francis Lyle, and that's correct. You're absolutely correct. Long did I toil and found no earthly rest. Manasa Ganga, thank you very much. Susan Phillips, Joyce, all the way from England. Love to you from Bai. She's right next door. She's also listening in. Mario. It keeps asking me if I want to bring any of you onto camera. So I'm going to ask Thomas more about this. He apparently knows how to add people to the broadcast, and perhaps we can do that in the future. Govinda Das, Jimmy, Sundari Priya, Anjali. Yes, thank you all so much for being with us. Transcendental Tuesday. We'll continue tomorrow on Wisdom Wednesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare.